Hi children, so in the previous video we discussed up to irrational numbers, right? So in this video we are going to discuss about that the leftover types of numbers. So the next one is important one, that is real numbers. What is that? Real numbers. So what about that real numbers? So before video we discussed about that rational numbers and irrational numbers, right? So here real numbers means the combination of rational numbers and irrational numbers. Rational numbers denoted by Q and irrational numbers denoted by Q dash, no? Okay, so the combination of rational numbers and irrational numbers is called real number, or are called real numbers. Are called real numbers. So what about the real numbers here? The combination of rational numbers and the irrational numbers also, which means here rational numbers means we discussed about that integers there and fraction forms, positive forms and negative forms there, and we discussed about that irrational numbers also, no? Now the set is having rational numbers as well as irrational numbers also there in that set of real numbers. Okay, so after that we have imaginary numbers. Okay, so real numbers is denoted by the letter R. Okay, so after this one we have that imaginary numbers. So what about that imaginary numbers? Imaginary numbers means, see here, the square root of negative numbers. The square root of negative numbers. The square root of negative numbers are called imaginary numbers. Okay, so what about that imaginary numbers? The square roots of negative numbers are called imaginary numbers. So square root of negative numbers minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, minus 4 and so on. Okay children, see here square roots of positive rational numbers. First I will tell you that positive rational numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, just example. The square roots of positive rational numbers, what we will call them? Okay, square root of 1 is 1. 1 is a rational number. Okay, square root of 2, there is no square root here. Okay, square root is there but that is in the non-terminating decimal, right? So here exact that 2 is not a perfect square. So that's why again we are getting here root 2 is equal to root 2 only. So this is that irrational number. And square root of 3 also irrational number. Okay, and here square root of 4 means that is 2. Square root of 4 is 2. So here this is a rational number. And square root of 5, this is irrational number. So square roots of positive numbers means that is divided into rational and irrational. Now what about that square roots of negative numbers? Here square root of minus 1, square root of minus 2, square root of minus 3, square root of minus 4 and so on. Here is it possible to say that square root of 4 and square root of minus 4, those two are equal? No, why? Because here square root of 4 is a positive and square root of minus 4 is a negative. Okay, so that's why here these two are that different. So we will discuss about this one now. Okay, so the square roots of negative numbers are known as imaginary numbers. So imaginary numbers denoted by the letter I. Denoted by the letter I, small I. Okay, why? Because here imaginary number starting letter is I, no? So that is denoted by the letter small I. So we will call this one as iota. What we will call that? Iota. Okay, so here, which means here the square roots of negative numbers. So just see that how to find the values of negative square roots, negative numbers square roots. Okay, in generally square root of -1 is equal to I. That is the I value here. Square root of -1 is that I value. Okay, now we need to find that powers of I or iota powers. Powers of I or iota powers. Okay, powers of I or iota powers we need to find out. So I generally we know that this is represented by square root of -1. Generally this is the value of I. Okay, now what about the value of I square? What about the value of I square? I value already -1. So what about the value of I square here? I means square root of -1 whole square. Square and root gets cancelled, so this value is -1. Okay, so here I is equals to square root of -1. I square is equal to -1. Clear? Next, I cube value I want to find out. I cube. So here square root of -1 whole cube. Okay, square root of -1 whole cube. So this one we can write it as square root of -1 whole square into square root of -1, or I cube we can write it as I square into I. Yes or no? Exponents a power m plus n. A power m plus n is equals to a power m into a power n. Shall we write like that? Okay. Again 2 plus I means power is 1. Okay. So I power 2 into I power 1, which means I power 2 plus 1 is I cube. Satisfied? Yes, see here. Already we know the value of I square. What is the value of I square here? -1 into I. -1 into I is equals to -I. -1 into I is equal to -I. So here I am writing all the values. See here. I cube is equals to -I. I cube is equal to -I. Next, I power 4 value. I power 4 value, how we can find that? Yes, I power 4 means here we can write that I square into I square. Shall we write like that? Again I power 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. So which is equals to I square value is -1. So -1 into -1. So -1 into -1 plus 1. So I power 4 value is plus 1. Okay, these are that basic values. Okay, so I is equal to square root of -1, I square is equal to -1, and here I cube is equal to I power 4 is equal to 1. Okay, next onwards we have some general values. Okay, these values are important. Why? Because one of the exercise, next exercise, that is related to I powers, iota powers. Okay, so that's why see here. Next, I power 5 values just to find out. I power 5 we can write that. Already we know that I power 4 value. So I want to write this one as I power 4 into I. Okay, by using that known value we are finding that unknown value. Okay, so here known value is I power 4. Okay, so I power 5 is equal to I power 4 into I. So I power 4 is equal to 1. 1 into I is equals to I. So I power 5 is equals to I. I power 5 is equal to I. Next, I power 6. So I power 6 is equals to I power 4 into I square. I power 4 into I square. Okay, so I power 4 value is 1 into I square value is -1. So 1 into -1 is -1. So I power 6 is equal to -1. Up to where we will find like this, ma'am, I will tell you just right. Okay. So next, I power 7. So I power 7 we can write it as I power 4 into I square into I. Why? Because ma'am you are taking like this. Why? Because I power 4 value, that is easy to remember. I square value also easy to remember. So that's why. Okay. So I power 4 is equal to 1 into I square value is equal to minus 1. Okay. And here only I is there. So write that only I or square root of minus 1, that is your wish. Okay. So here also we can write that square root of minus 1 also we can write. Okay, why? Because that is the value of I, no? So that's why. So 1 into minus 1 is a minus 1. Minus 1 into I is minus I. So I power 7 is minus I. Minus I. And the last one is I power 8 value, first find out. Okay, here onwards you will get one clarity. So here I power 8 means I power 4 into I power 4. Shall we write like that? I power 4 into I power 4. So I power 4 value is 1. Again I power 4 value is 1. So 1 into 1 is 1. So I power 8 is 1. Am I clear? So why madam you taken here up to 8 values means I will tell you that, listen. So first I is there. So I is equals to square root of minus 1. I square is equals to minus 1. And I cube is equal to minus I power 4 is equals to 1. Okay. Next I power 5 we can write it as I power 4. 4 into 1 plus 1. Shall we write like that? I power 4 into 1 is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. Okay. So I power 5 value is I or square root of minus 1. Okay, so this one we can write it as I power 4n plus 1 is equal to I or square root of minus 1. Okay, this one we can write it as 4 into 1 plus 2, 4 into 1 plus 3, 4 into 1 plus 4. Okay, so like that we can write, no? So here we can say that I power 4n plus 2 is equal to I power 4n plus 2. That value is minus 1. I power 4n plus 3 is equals to 4n plus 3 means here minus I. And finally 4n plus 4, that is nothing but again 4n only. So I power 4n value is always 1. I power 4n value is always 1. In your material they given minus 1, please correct it. That is I power 4n is plus 1. Okay children, these are that basically general values here. Okay, so by using this one we can derive that remaining problems. Okay, so this is about that imaginary numbers. So imaginary numbers means the square root of negative numbers are called imaginary numbers. What is the symbol which we use to represent imaginary numbers? I, small I. So why we are calling that one means iota. Okay, what is that? Iota. So this is the powers of I or iota powers. Clear? So after this one we have that complex numbers. And the last type of number, complex numbers. So what about that complex numbers, ma'am? Complex numbers means the combination of imaginary numbers and real numbers. So in that real numbers, all the natural numbers, whole numbers, integers, fractions, and here we can say real numbers. What is that? Irrational numbers also there, no? So here positive number square roots and here some other numbers also there. Okay, so along with that imaginary numbers means the square root of negative numbers. So the combination of all the real numbers and imaginary numbers, that set is called complex number set. Okay, and here complex numbers are represented by the letter C. Complex numbers are represented by the letter C. Is it clear? Okay children, so this is about that all the types of numbers. So here complex numbers we are having that real numbers and imaginary numbers. So once again I will tell you that flow chart what we discussed in that first video. Okay, why? Because now we know that all the types of numbers, no? So you also try along with me. So first complex numbers. So in that complex numbers we have that real numbers and imaginary numbers. That is the definition of complex numbers. No, complex numbers means the combination of real numbers and imaginary numbers. So real numbers is the combination of rational numbers and irrational numbers. Real numbers definition is the combination of rational numbers and irrational numbers are called real numbers. And rational numbers means the combination of integers, okay, and here positive fractions and here negative fractions also. Okay, that is about that rational numbers. And here integers. In integers we have that negative numbers and here positive numbers, along with that 0. Along with that 0. And here 0 and positive numbers, which is that set of whole numbers. Okay. Again in that whole numbers we have that 0 and here positive natural numbers. Actually this set only, again repetition here. Okay. So 0 is there as well as positive natural numbers also there. So this positive natural numbers is known as natural numbers. Positive numbers are known as natural numbers. Again in that natural numbers we have that even numbers, odd numbers, prime numbers, composite numbers. Completed. So this flow chart only we discussed in that first video. Okay children, I think this is very easy to you. I hope all you understand about this one, right? So this is also very useful topic. So already we discussed in that previous earlier classes. Once again just we recalled about this all. Okay. So in that next video we are going to discuss about that worksheet 2 problems which are related to types of numbers. Okay. Thank you.